I've got a question. How many of you, I want you to raise your hand, can proudly say that you were arrested at Occupy Wall Street? Okay? Well, I want to give a shout out, not only those who've been arrested, but also to the National Lawyers Guild for defending everyone. And our next speaker, Danny Myers, an attorney and past president of the New York chapter of the National Lawyers Guild.
Congratulations to all of you who are here tonight and not in the jails and prisons of a city that has become a place of mass incarceration and mass arrests. Part of the reason is the same reason that you mentioned money as a driving force in the repression that is taking place in the United States. In fiscal year 2010, do you know how much money NYPD received from you taxpayers just for overtime? Do you have any idea as to the size of the overtime that was paid to the police before the occupation began? More than $500 million. One of the things that we really got to know when resisting is what it is that the New York City budget gives to the New York City Police Department. It's really astronomical. It's multi-billions of dollars. And it's no accident that NYPD is the preeminent police force probably in the world. It's in Tel Aviv, it's in Beirut, it's in Newark, it's in Buffalo, it's in Syracuse, it's in all the SUNY schools, it's in Baruch, not far from here. It's everywhere. And we have to make everyone aware of this, and we have to resist it. So stay strong. The National Lawyers Guild New York City chapter will always respond. Will always respond. And we are also responsive because this struggle also educates legal folk. They become much more human. They become much more able to deal with people and people's needs. So keep up the struggle. It'll keep us progressive.
How does everybody feel about using the people's mic? Are you cool with that? Come in here a little bit. Woo! Mic check! Mic check! Mic check! Mic check! Mic check! Mic check! Those who actually wield political and police power in this country. Political and police power in this country. Regarded these protests as dangerous. Regarded these protests as dangerous. Time and again. They violated their own laws. They violated their own laws. And ordered police to pepper spray. And ordered police to pepper spray. Beat us with clubs. Beat us with clubs. Shoot stun gun grenades at people. Shoot stun gun grenades at people. Who were doing nothing more. Who were doing nothing more. Than non-violently. occupiers!
Against the occupiers!
On top of all that, they attempted to prevent journalists and photographers from covering these acts of repression. Unless they were embedded with police. To put the matter bluntly, the state unleashed systematic violence against people attempting to exercise legally guaranteed rights. This response then is both immoral and illegal. Mayor Bloomberg and Commissioner Kelly and all the mayors and police commissioners are involved. Are you listening? Are you listening?
Hey, thank you, Travis, and thank you, Aaron. Aaron was reading for the call that is the underpinnings of this demonstration. I'm suggesting to you that you get copies of that call and send that out all over the place, because today is just the first step. Today, we are saying to the 1% and the political structures and the police structures that enforce their interests that the suppression of Occupy must stop. We are creating a political situation today, an understanding, an ethos, if you will, that every time the police pepper spray a student or a grandmother, that thousands of people understand from that this system has no future for the youth or for the elderly. We are creating a situation where every cop baton that's stuck into the belly of a protester, where every rubber bullet that is fired at the orders of Mayor Bloomberg or Mayor Kwan or a governor or the Obama administration causes more people to see them as representatives of an illegitimate system that oppresses people here and around the world. Every lie that the media tells should bring thousands more out into the streets that say enough, stop suppressing Occupy. Not in my name, you have to come through me to get to them. By what you are doing today, what we are doing today, more people can see the link between the illegitimate violence that was visited upon the Occupy movement and the violence that is directed every day at people in this society and around the world. And I'm talking about 2.5 million people in prison, Black and Latino youth rounded up in a genocidal mass incarceration. I'm talking about 25,000 children a day dying due to the workings of this system. This is the violence that's visited. It's the violence of the pen, as Rebecca Solnit said. What hypocrisy was it for them to say that because they were a few repugnant and vile acts of sexual assault in some of the encampments that they were going to evict Occupy? Who are they to talk when every 15 seconds a woman is assaulted in the United States and 1/4 of all the female college students will be assaulted and raped while she's in school? They're the ones who should be evicted. I speak today for Revolution Books, and I'm going to tell you we need a revolution, and we are organizing a movement to build that revolution based on the foundation of a new synthesis of communism developed by Bob Avakian. We are talking about a world where human beings everywhere would be free of exploitation and oppression, where people could really flourish, and where all the divisions among the people would be overcome, and for once humanity could be caretakers of the planet. And don't say that can't happen. There's a strategy to get there. And it involves things like this. Because this system produces crises, and that moves people to raise big questions, and people can come into motion, and that's what we're doing. Occupy broke down the acceptance of the status quo. People began to ask why. Does it have to be like this? You put your lives on the line, you left your jobs, and the ice that had been frozen over society began to thaw. But even that was too much for the people who rule this society, and within 60 days, they brutally attacked this movement, and they haven't stopped yet, and we need to rally the masses of people to say, enough with that. And this has created a new situation and new questions. But by taking on this suppression, we can rally thousands and thousands more. We have to go back and get those 30,000 people who took to the streets on November 17th. Okay, look, today we're showing this. We come from very different political perspectives and beliefs and goals, and that's good. We should debate that, we must debate that. But I have to say that blaming bad protesters, blaming bad occupiers, blaming communists, all of this destroys the movement. And it distracts us from going up against the people who really are causing the problems in the world and who have been suppressing Occupy. Occupy has been shown the instruments of state power, and they are formidable. But let me tell you this, we have two things going for us. Number one, we have justice. That is something they can never have on their side. And number two, we have the people whose interests lie with the movement against all this exploitation and oppression. So today, a new phase of the struggle has begun. I want to say to you something that was said in the 60s, dare to struggle, dare to win, keep the interests of the people of the world in your hearts and in your minds. Thank you.
Can't do it. But we want to play for you the audio. So, Professor Noam Chomsky.
That I can only be with you today in spirit. The Occupy movements have been a remarkable success. They've changed the national discourse. They've introduced crucial concerns that had been hidden into public view. Not least, they've created communities of mutual support and solidarity. That's something extremely important in an atomized society like this. In fact, one sign of their success is the nature of the repression. It's pretty clearly coordinated, some places quite harsh and vicious, an indication of success and concern. Naturally, we have to resist the repression, support and defend those who are its victims.
When we see black men and brown men all over this city stopped and frisked, when Muslims are being chased by our police, not just in this city, but into other cities all across the country, we have forgotten what a human life is for. Now, Occupy is to remember what a human life is for. This is the central message of all the great religious traditions from all the centuries and millennia. What is a human life for? It is that everyone is precious. No one is 1,000 times more precious than anybody else, and that is a sin. It's a sin to treat some people as thousands of times more important than other people. And so when those who suppress Occupy come, it's because they have completely forgotten what a human life is for. Their heads are gone with greed, their hearts have stopped beating, and they have become the most dangerous force on the face of the earth.
Because there's one thing that a human life is for, and that is to see with your heart, with your mind, with your will, that everyone is precious. Everyone. So say it with me. Occupy, remember what a human life is for. Occupy, remember what a human life is for. Occupy, remember what a human life is for.